Hey, what's going on, everyone? I'm going to be live streaming, answering your questions, any questions you might have. I haven't done this in a little while, so I figured I'd jump on now. A week ago, there was crazy fires in California, like maybe 200 yards, 300 yards. What's that? Same as meters away from where I live and my studio. So it just like all the smoke got evacuated, all of those things. Um, so now I'm back at it. Studio's cleared out, all the smoke's out. Um, I'm back in my studio, switch things up a little bit, which is kind of funny because I just recently redid a bunch of things with the studio. My monitor's over here now instead of over here. Um, and I have this new camera angle here, which I'm still working on. But you know, that stuff's cool. So yeah, welcome everyone. Let me know if you have any questions. That's what I'm here for. And hellos all around. Hey, how's it going? Welcome. What's up, Mitch? How's it going, man? Nice to see you on this live stream, buddy. Here to answer questions, guys. Definitely here to answer your questions. Welcome back. Thank you so much. Those fires, I'm like super far behind. I mean, I actually think like if you're not far behind, you're probably not doing enough, right? Anyway, like if you don't feel like you're behind in things, you're probably not doing enough. But I feel incredibly far behind because I basically couldn't do my normal work for like a week. And even when I got back in the studio after the smoke cleared, it was still very smoky. So I couldn't record like usual, which that's how it goes. You know, it happens from time to time, but everyone, the vast majority of people are safe. Luckily, I think there was two, first responders that had injuries. I'm not sure what happened there, but I'm just glad to be back. You know, hopefully those guys are safe and okay. So yeah, I'm just gonna say hi to everyone. Good morning to those of you. Good night to others of you that are joining me at nighttime. Hey, what's up? What's going on? You know, I just kind of mentioned it. Back in the recording studio, back at it. I like really cannot wait until I have a proper recording studio. I mean, for the vast majority of people, in comparison to what the vast majority of people have or what I used to have, this is so much more like a recording studio. But I mean, like everything about it is dialed in as a recording studio. Can't wait to do that. But yeah, Mitch, thanks. Getting your workout in, and you came to say hi. Cool. That's good to hear. What are you doing? Are you sitting on the bike really slowly and watching YouTube? Anyways. Multi-camera setup. Yeah. Yeah, I think this camera is not nearly as good as that one. But at some point I'll probably have to upgrade this one as well. But for now, this just works fine whenever I need to move to these different angles, you know what I mean? But it's still unnatural for me because I don't have those like camera switching buttons. I think it's called a Stream Deck. So it would be a lot easier to just press the button. I know there's hotkeys for OBS and stuff like that, but it'd be really nice to have the quick switch, you know, and not have to look at the screen to see what the other scene is. Anyways, enough out of that. Can I integrate Streamlit with Django? I am not sure what Streamlit is. Let's take a look. What do you think? What do you think, guys? Should we look at whatever Streamlit is? The fastest way to create data apps. So what I would do is Streamlit API, and it looks like they have an API. So my guess is, yeah, you probably can, right? That would be my intuition on that, at least. But I've never had to do it, and I don't know when I will. I'm sure it's probably a cool tool. It looks like it might be. Thanks for the question. Mitch, who am I voting for? That's a good question. I am going to write in for Kanye West. I'm just kidding. I don't know. I think that's a private thing. You Canadian, get out of here. This is not a political channel at all, nor do I want it to be, Mitch. Nor do I want it to be. Okay. Can you show us how to invite a new team member? I'm not sure what you mean by that. A new team member to like a project? Interesting. What's the best language to work with APIs? This does not matter at all, right? If something can work with an API and you know how to do it, that's the best language to do it. And I'm assuming you mean REST APIs because pretty much every software has APIs. That stands for Application Programming Interface. But APIs typically now mean they're usually referring to a RESTful API service or a REST API. But yeah, like, I mean, I love using Python, but I also enjoy using JavaScript for it too. Coding with Mitch Tabian, he's a big fan of probably using Java to consume APIs. So it doesn't really matter. Thanks for the question, though. So really quickly, as you guys will notice, I quickly get out of, like, I mean, I'll answer questions, it'll take a while, and then I'll be super far behind. Like, there's just no way I can keep up with the amount of questions that you guys give, which I love, right? It's part of the reason I have these questions as they are right here, like with this, right, showing up, is so that I can keep on track with one by one. Quickest way to get your question answered is a super chat. Those like come right at the top for me, and I get those done. I actually don't know how long I'll be on tonight either, so just keep that in mind. Anyways, let's get to this one. Why is Django not good for small projects? Who told you that? Django's great for all sorts of things, right? So if you're using Django to really quickly build an API that really just runs a machine learning algorithm of some kind, you're probably going to want to use Flask. I don't know why you'd use Django in that case, but you can build big, small, any kind of project size with Django. It's just oftentimes using something like Flask or Fast API is incredibly easy to do, right? Because it's just a Python function essentially, and then boom, you've got a web application. Django has a few more configuration things that have to happen, including like configuring a database, unless you watch my single page Django tutorial that I did 2 weeks ago, that will show you how to do a very minimal version of Django as well that kind of competes with what Flask does too. So I think Django is a great option for all kinds of project sizes. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Aman, thank you for your super chat. I appreciate it. No question though. Just love the support. Thank you. Thank you. Make a React tutorial. I have a number of React tutorials actually, and a lot more to come. So thank you for the suggestion. And Mitch, just squatting. Like you're just sitting there squatting, or you're actually lifting weights? I'm just kidding. I'm not one to talk. I got this like started after I had children, so obviously I'm not squatting much anymore. Oh man, I really need to get back into the gym. Okay, so let's see. Python Redis tutorial. So there's a lot of cool things that you can do with Redis. I actually just released on my website how to install Redis on multiple different machines, including using Docker. So Linux, Mac, and Windows, on how to install Redis on all of those things. So definitely check that out if you're interested in using Redis at all. But I definitely need to do more things with Redis and Python. Thanks for the suggestion. Okay, so when I make any website, then a guide how to test that website, is there any tool for this? So testing a website, how do you actually test a website? Is that what you're asking? If you learn how to use like Selenium, for example, you can write a bunch of front-end unit tests for all sorts of things. So this is a hard thing to answer because it's very, very layered. But yes, you definitely can. Is there guides? Just look for unit tests. Priyanash, hey, welcome back. Good to see you. Can you assist you with what's going on through the source code of Django Flask? You're making a web framework on your own, and you decide to use an ORM like Mongoose and Node. So you want me to actually look through the code with you and help you with your web framework? I would absolutely love to do that. I just simply do not have the time. I have a huge backlog of things that I need to finish, and helping you on this project sounds really interesting, but it's not something I can do right now. Maybe someone else in the live chat would love to join you on something along those lines. Yeah, I just don't have the time. Sorry. Thanks for the question though. Let's see. Can we use NoSQL with Django? Yes, you absolutely can. So you can use MongoDB, which is a very popular NoSQL or NoSQL backend database. And MongoDB with Django, really, really easy to do. I mean, I have a blog post on exactly how it's done. So check out that blog post. I will probably have a video on it at some point, but you're going to end up using something called Django. Django, DJO-NGO. So like Mongo and Django combined. Check that out. It's a really, really good project and definitely well worth learning, I think. Hey, Mitch. Mitch with the live chat. Canadian dollars. So obviously Mitch is from Canada. Could you guys tell that I think that? Or know that rather? Gosh, how silly. Okay, so Redis is definitely great for building a cache. Thoughts? Absolutely. Totally agree with you. There's a lot of Django cache tools that allow you to use Redis for Django to managing the cache too. Cache gets a little tricky because of the things that you think, oh, this might be a good thing to cache, but then it's actually not a good thing to cache because for example, editing a profile, if you cache the actual profile and then you go and edit, parts of your site might not actually have the updated version. So caching that might be a problem. That's one simple example of that. As far as a Redis cache course, that sounds funny. That is something that I probably should do at some point, and I definitely want to. Like I mentioned just a moment ago, I've got this big backlog of things to do. But really, Mitch, I think with your background, you could probably figure out really quickly on how to use the caching just from the Django docs. And the name of the Django Redis cache thing is eluding me right now, but it's incredibly easy to do because you can just cache certain views or certain query sets inside of Django. Of course, I'm only mentioning Django here. It works for many, many other things as well. Yeah. I did see a YouTube video. Hit me up if I forget to send it to you, but there's a really good YouTube video that was explaining how cache works, and I just loved his explanation. And it's on a whiteboard, so it's really, really well done. So if I remember that one, I'll hit you up. Mitch, why use class-based views over views you build from scratch yourself? So class-based views are really just convenience methods to run any view, right? So any function-based view, I'm assuming that's what you meant by overviews you build from scratch yourself. And obviously, I'm also assuming that you're talking about Django here. So function-based views are just a function, and you return something. Class-based views can do exactly that as well. But if you're using the same sort of response over and over again, class-based views shortcut that a lot. A really good example of this is like a list view, right? So if you have a bunch of objects that you want to list out for different users, let's say, for instance, their purchases or their posts or their images, their files, like any model that you want to list, have a query set of, and you want that as a view, that should be a class-based view, because then all you need to do is do the list view and put the query set that you want to use and then render it. And that's it. You don't actually have to worry about anything else. It will automatically look for the template that you need to use. But then on top of that, you can also add in some mix-ins like permission-based mix-ins and just additional data that you might want to reuse throughout. So class-based views really cut through the noise on making all that stuff happen. So yeah, thanks, Mitch. Thanks for the good questions. Yeah, see if he uploads a video. You're the first one. Thanks, Priyanash. Appreciate it. You're a beginner and you're following my 30 days of Python course and you're finding it very difficult to understand. Yeah, I totally get that because I jumped from the absolute basics into building real things. To me, building real things is we're going to learn really how to use Python, because I could essentially recite the documentation to you and technically you'd be learning it, but you wouldn't understand the context of where it all fits in. So pretty much every project I do, I try to give you all of the context of where any sort of concept fits into things. And that's where, I mean, that's really the difference between information and distilled knowledge, right? So if 30 days of Python is challenging for you, then perhaps doing it again from the beginning, like the first 10 days or first 8 days, something that's not that challenging, and then think of a project that you want to do. Maybe it's like sending your friend a text message, something like that. That is like what I would recommend that you do, and then go back to 30 days of Python after you get maybe a little bit more of a project yourself done. Anyways. You reinstalled Twitter after 9 years just to follow me. Thank you. Appreciate it. Glad to have you as a follow. This one's funny. Please upload your tutorial code on GitHub. I have it all over GitHub, so it's already there. cfe.sh/GitHub. That's where you can find it. See, I'm already 12 minutes behind. It's like impossible to keep up with this. And I realize there's like a slow mode you can do in these live chats, but I don't want slow mode. I want as many questions as I possibly can, because then I can actually just scroll at a random thing like this one, right? So this was 11 minutes ago. I just skipped over a bunch. So that's why I just want you guys to just throw them in here, do those live chats or super chats rather, if you can. At one point, can I say, okay, now I've become a good developer? Yeah, I think this is a good question because it's hard to answer for anybody, right? So me personally, I definitely feel that way, but then I do something that makes me not feel that way at all. And I think this is actually one of the coolest things about software development is you can always pick a new area that you are no longer good in or a good developer in, and it challenges you to get a lot better. So I think this is a revolving door. I don't know if you can ever say that you have become a good developer until maybe until other people start saying it about you, like actual people that are working with you. If they're telling you you're a good developer and they're also good developers, or at least you respect them, then maybe that's when you can start feeling that way or telling yourself that way. But at the other hand, it's like, well, why not just call yourself a good developer now until it's actually true? I don't know. Like sometimes I feel like I'm an excellent developer. Like I'm the best. Like I just like can really get after it. But then I, read back some of this old code that I did before, maybe that exact same code that I felt really good about, and go, what was I thinking? So that's just an ongoing thing that it's impossible to say that, I don't know. That's what I think. It's impossible to say, oh yeah, I'm definitely a good developer now because I've reached this level. Because as soon as you reach any level, something new is going to come out, or your interest in something else is going to come. And then you're going to be like, oh, I'm not a good developer anymore. Like for me, I'm going to show you guys this. So something I've been working on are all of these books here, right? So all of those books, and some of them make me not feel like a great developer. Jeremy Howard's Deep Learning. Jeremy Howard himself, like he comes out with some stuff in Python, and I'm just like, dude, like, how do you know that? Or what even compels you to think of things that way? And then I'm like, I've been doing Python for like 10 years. This has never occurred to me. Yeah, you know what I mean? So that stuff happens a lot. I'm curious to see like the people that are like Django or Python core developers, if that actually happens to them as well, in areas of Django or Python. I don't know. I haven't had the opportunity to chat with. Uh, okay, so what should I do after 12 to pursue CS? I am not sure what you mean by after 12. 12th grade? Is that what you mean? And to pursue computer science, just build projects. Figure out a project you want to build and automate with software and do that. And do it again, and then again, and again, and again. Do that until you can't build projects anymore. Along the lines, you might convince yourself that it's worthwhile going to a university or a boot camp or, I don't know, investing in a bunch of courses. I mean, there's a lot of ways on how you can pursue computer science that's not necessarily traditional. Because, of course, you could say, oh, yeah, just go to the university and study computer science there. That may be true, but I actually do wonder to this day if universities around the world, if their professors are actively pursuing the cutting edge in computer science. I just don't know because I don't talk to a lot of them. I would imagine that they are as much as they possibly can to meet the demands of industry. But the demands of industry aren't always on the cutting edge either. And I guess that becomes the question of, like, do you even need to be on the cutting edge? I don't know. Long answers only here. Isn't that right, everybody that has been with me before? Did I look at it, the Google form? Yeah, so I sent a survey out the other day from you guys on basically how it's going. And it sounds like some of you can't get it. And I have had no issues with it whatsoever. I wonder if Google Forms are blocked in certain parts of the world. I don't know. You guys tell me. Maybe that's why they're not loading. Maybe you have to like actually be logged into Google, but that shouldn't be the case. I removed that as being an option, you know. I helped you out with your OpenCV project. That's on your channel now. Cool. Glad that I helped you out. Glad that you enjoyed it. Hey, Mitchell. What's up? What framework is best to work with Django? REST framework. What front-end framework, rather? This actually doesn't matter at all, right? So you can use Angular, you can use React, you can use Vue, you can use jQuery, you can use Vanilla.js, you can use pretty much any other JavaScript front-end framework there is. So that's just for the web side of things, though, right? The other side of things, like if you want to build a mobile application, maybe you use Swift, maybe you use Java, maybe you use React Native. You know, there's a lot of different things that you can do because really what Django REST Framework is, or DRF, Django REST Framework just allows you to build a REST API with Django. So that's it. It's not anything more than that. And you can use and consume REST APIs with front ends pretty much anywhere. So yeah. Okay. You have a problem with Django login. You have a custom backend, and you notice that every time you log on, you have to log in twice or more before you can get to the index page. So I'm not exactly sure why this would happen necessarily, but I think that the problem has to do with however you're authenticating inside of that view. That would be my guess. So if you're not using like Django AllAuth or your own custom login, like if it is your own custom login, then I would perhaps actually try and use Django AllAuth and see if you can get it working there. And if it's working there, then great. Then there's obviously something wrong with your view. If it's not, then there's a good chance that perhaps you're trying to use JavaScript or something to actually log in, and that's why you're getting that problem. Or there's a network interruption, or there's a server interruption. I actually don't know. There could be a lot of different things that's happening there. You know what I mean? All right. So I'm probably going to just jump on for a few more minutes here. You know? Let's see. I'm looking for this. Will Golang replace Python in the future? Who knows? It could. I don't see that happening anytime soon, because like Python is great for web applications. It's great for machine learning. It's great for DevOps and network engineering, automation, all other kinds of automation, IoT. It's just really good for all sorts of things. Perhaps it's not the best at any one of those things, but it's like a really good generalist, where Go doesn't have that much support for all of the things I just mentioned. And even if it does, it's definitely not widely popular like Python. But that doesn't mean that something won't change in the future. I actually think that maybe Julia has a better chance of doing that than Go does. But that's just with limited knowledge of both of them, to be honest. So, yeah. How do I host my React Redux project independently from Django? Any static file host probably can do this. So AWS, or Amazon Web Services S3, you can put all of your JavaScript, your CSS, your index.html file, you can put all of that in there and host it as its own file, and then Django itself being just the REST API that React Redux project calls to it. Django doesn't have to be the one that manages that index file. It's really the point. Because that's what really all you would be doing, is just rendering an index file, which is like one of the things that the web has been really good at for a long time. So pretty much any HTML and CSS host, you'd be able to host all of those things. So yeah, thanks for the question. Am I from a computer science background? So did I study at university computer science? No, I did not. But I study computer science a ton now and still. So I don't know if, like, my degree is not in computer science. It's in a bachelor's of science in business administration, and specifically in entrepreneurship. But what I found was that I kept on getting frustrated that I couldn't actually help, or like I wasn't actually helping build these projects. Like that absolutely frustrated me. So what I decided to do instead was to actually learn how to build projects on my own. So with that, you have to learn a lot of the computer science things that you would learn in university anyway. So yeah, good question. I mean, perhaps that goes along with what I was saying earlier about, I don't know if these universities are teaching the most cutting edge things. They might be, they might not be. But I do really, really like, I believe it is MIT that has CS50. That YouTube channel and class is like top notch. I highly recommend it to anyone who wants to learn computer science stuff for free. That is a really, really good class for it. And it's all free on YouTube. And they're also doing free live streams in 2020 for things like that. When to use React and when to use Node.js? Like, what are the use cases? It's a good question. So React.js is, well, React.js, and there's also React Native, but I'll stick with React.js. React.js is typically a front-end framework that actually renders out user interfaces. Node.js is typically a back-end that is actually rendering out the server side of things. So it actually would handle the different URLs and stuff like that. So there actually can be a lot of overlap with what React and Node.js can do. That's true with React and Django, and Node and Django. But Node.js itself isn't really just for the web, where React is. Node.js is just like a desktop version of JavaScript that you can install and use, so you can use JavaScript on all kinds of projects. It doesn't necessarily just have to be for the web. But oftentimes Node.js with Express.js is how you build a lot of web applications. And those web applications are kind of like a very simple way to get a web application up and going. And the React is what the user ends up using. And that's also true for React Native. You know what I mean? Thanks for the question. That was a good one. I'm not sure if I gave you enough of an answer there, but, you know, it was something. It was something. All right. Cool. Maximilian Schwartzmüller. That would be an interesting podcast. I have heard of Akamai. I'm not sure if I've seen or heard Maximilian himself. If you can arrange an introduction, I would be happy to talk to him. I got a few more lined up. I actually had a few in queue that went through because of the fires, unfortunately. So hopefully I'll have a few more podcasts here in the near future with some interesting guests. And I'm definitely going to be starting to upload some clips here soon as well from those other podcasts. So I'm actually curious if you guys are aware of really good tools for live streaming questions, like what I did with Mitch and Dennis. So with Mitch, I had him call in on Skype and I was able to use OBS Studio to actually run the entire thing. OBS Studio, very similar to like what I'm doing here, where I can actually switch the scenes and I can pause it and I can do all the things that I need to do. I actually want to see that, something like that, maybe a little bit better than using Skype though. If anyone has any suggestions, I would love to hear that. And with Mitch, with Dennis, I was using a tool that just really did not work. And there's so much buffering, which is unfortunate because it seemed very, very promising. But it just was not suited for a live chat like that. Which is, to be fair to them, it's not necessarily something that they said they are most focusing on. So yeah. Make a Udemy class. I have Udemy classes on there for sure. But I definitely have everything on my website. So cfe.sh, it's linked in the description below. All of my website, that I will always put everything there before anything else. So yeah. Okay, so if you ask the same question like 100 times, it's a really easy way to put yourself in timeout. So I'm not going to answer that question even. Come on, man. Like, seriously? Does that work for some people? Professional face puncher. Hey, what's up? Welcome back. I think it's actually you. I don't think it's somebody else. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think maybe a couple more questions, and then I'm going to hop off and get to work on a few other things. What do I think the core concepts one should know best to land a Django developer job? Well, certainly the ORM, so Django models and query sets and model managers. That's like probably one of the biggest advantages of using Django. Writing unit tests, so tests in general, is pretty important to be able to do. I don't spend a lot of time teaching people how to write tests because they're incredibly boring to write them, but they are very, very important. So those two things are probably near the top. I would imagine you'd probably need to know the difference between function-based views and class-based views and how to build them. You'd probably want to know the Django REST framework. I would imagine that would be an important thing to get a Django developer job. But really, what you might want to look at is the places that you're trying to land a job with and see what other things they want you to know. Because it's not just going to be Django. I don't think there's very many jobs that all you do is Django. I mean, perhaps there is, but there's a really good chance that you might have to do some DevOps or some like cloud-based services. There's also a really good chance that you'll have to do front-end things. But the standard Django things are like the Django views, Django templates, authentication, permissions. Those are things that you'll definitely probably want to know. So that's kind of like an overview. But I would really be hard pressed to say that for sure all you'll do is Django. That it just can't be the case. You know what I mean? Maybe, but maybe not. Probably not. You probably need to do more than that. All right. Well, do I have another dev job or product apart from my coding school? No. I have definitely experimented with all sorts of things, but right now it's just coding for entrepreneurs. I'm like really, really focused on making that as best as it possibly can be. And really what I want to find, Darren, is people who are actively working super hard to build their skills. So for a long time, so even like this YouTube stream, right? It's just kind of open for everyone, right? Like it's just come on, ask your questions. Some questions I've answered 100 times. But what I really want to do is I actually want to work with a much smaller group and just really help those people that are actively getting after it. I think that's because like I can't actually, I don't know if it's possible to work with 100,000 people or more that are actively getting after it and actually be engaged with them, right? Like I don't think it's possible. That's just way too many people. But maybe like 100 or 200, like a big lecture hall. Yeah, I think we can make really, really high level stuff. And that's actually what I'm really, really working towards, is to find those people that are really actively trying to make stuff happen. So Mitch Tabian, he was on a little bit ago, and he was on my podcast. He's a good example of somebody who I should have spent a lot more time just with him when he was learning. I mean, I still talk to him and stuff like that, but when he was like going through Coding for Entrepreneurs, he was doing a bunch of other things too. So it wasn't just what I was doing, but having like students like that are the ideal for a teacher. And those are the ones I'm actively trying to look for and trying to work with more, which was part of the reason I was going to do more bootcamp stuff, but live boot camps just aren't for me. Maybe still doing live stuff for sure, but just the full on boot camp for like 2 weeks or longer, it's just not what I'm well suited for. And so I'm really trying to find the students that are actively getting after it. And once I actually work a lot more with them, then all of the content beyond that will trickle into YouTube and into other places as well. Probably way too much context for your question. But the point is that I'm like incredibly busy with Coding for Entrepreneurs. So like the idea of being a part of something else right now is just currently not in the cards. So yeah. And I mean, on top of that, like a bunch of sponsorships and stuff like that. So, let me see, Darren, I saw you just got me another question. Let me just scroll to it. You've been an EIR, entrepreneur in residence, and mentor at accelerators. Interesting about impact, etc. I give talks, started YouTube, and trying to increase your impact. Yeah. Let's talk, man. Shoot me a tweet or an email. Shoot, I changed my OBS so I don't have my links, but cfe.sh/Twitter should bring you to me. I think that's right. Or it's join CFE. Let's see. Yeah, it does. Here we go. Right. So you can hit me up here and let's talk. You can also shoot me an email on my website. I'd love to see what it is that you're working on, and perhaps there's some sort of collaboration, especially like what accelerators that you've worked at and all those sorts of things. But perhaps there's something in helping other YouTubers increase their impact as well. And maybe Darren, you're one of those. Thanks for the questions. Let's see here. I mean, I'm definitely looking for more partners, like actual businesses that are interested in, working with me on whatever technology project they have, so that I can learn something new, and then all of you YouTubers can learn something new as well. The nice thing about working in those situations is, well, there's a very clear, defined sort of goal for all parties involved. And at the same time, it gives me the opportunity to step outside or away from, this focus that I have with Coding for Entrepreneurs, and then actually play around with new technology. Some stuff related to that is coming out soon, but I definitely want to do that more. And it's not just for the sponsorship side of things. Absolutely would love to have more sponsorships. It's much more to me. It's like, well, as a developer, you guys out there, you should know a lot more than just the big names, right? So like in cloud computing, for example, yes, there's AWS. Yes, there's Google Cloud Compute, or Google Cloud Platform, and Azure. But there's so many other things, right? So many other things. to think that those are the only ones is like a disservice. So what I want to do is stuff like that where it's sort of complementary to a lot of things like this. I want to partner with those kinds of people to make a lot more better content for all of you guys. So yeah, if you're listening, hit me up. Yes, Blake. Just like Linode. Blake Williams. I agree with you. Are you from Linode, Blake? Or are you just a fan? I've done stuff with Linode in the past, and looking forward to potentially doing stuff with them in the future. We'll see. So yeah. Anyways, oh, you just love their service. Yeah. It's very cost effective, and funny story, like with Linode specifically, that is where I actually put my first Django project was on Linode, and I wasn't the Django developer. I actually had a friend of mine develop it, or actually as a friend of a friend, he developed it for me. And that was like one of my entry points into doing Django. So then I learned a lot more about Django from that process, and Linode was there. Man, it's been around for a long time. And it's really cool to see how their product has evolved since I started. And so, yeah. Thanks for the questions. So I'm going to go to more of the recent ones, and perhaps... did you decide the name of my coffee yet? So the other day I made a joke with my brother and I, my older brother and I have two brothers, but my older brother and I, we were just joking around and talking about making a coffee company. And I'm going to show you the little thing that I put up. So Coffee Mitch, or Mitch Please Coffee. And it's certainly a play on words. And then, yeah, Mitch Tavian jumping in there. And you know, Mitch will be my last name, obviously putting in something like Coffee Mitch. And if you're not aware of this, this is because of Network Chuck. I'm just a huge fan of Chuck. Someday maybe I'll be able to work with him on something, but he has Network Chuck Coffee. And so I'm like, oh, well, what about Mitchell Coffee? And since Mitch rhymes with many things, or one thing in particular, I thought that would be kind of funny. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. I don't know. So just a little joke. I don't think I'll actually end up making coffee anytime soon, but like actually producing a brand for it, that might be fun, but you know, it's just not something I'm going to do just yet. Let's see here. What do you guys think? Should I make coffee? Would you actually buy some Coffee Mitch or Mitch Please Coffee? What city do I live in? I live in Irvine, California, in Southern California. I used to live in Newport Beach. So that is also where my studio is. Some Lagos. Nice. Welcome. Welcome. Sorry, I do not know how to pronounce your name, but thanks for joining. Tasso? Sorry, I really do not know how to pronounce your name, but thank you. Anyways, you should review Forward Initiative offered by Udacity. It's a big thing in Egypt, and no one has reviewed it yet. Please do. What is that? I don't know what that is. Please tweet it to me. I'd love to check it out. Okay, guys. I think Hemeth, what's up? Welcome back. I know there was a fire in California, a fire like 300 meters, 300 yards from where I live. So and my studio. So I had to, I literally had to be evacuated. I have never been evacuated in all the time I've lived in California, which is like 33 years. So practically my whole life. Actually a little bit less than that because I've lived in other places, but totally had to be evacuated. That's never happened to me before. And it was really weird. So me, my wife, my two kids, we had to leave our place, all this smoke happened, so kind of had to be shut down for a little bit. I mentioned that earlier, but I know how these live stream goes. If you come towards the end, you just really don't get it. Some of the other stuff, unless you rewatch, right? Hi, Thor. Are you calling me Thor? Do I look like Thor? That's funny. I've never heard that. But thanks. So, Egypt with Udacity, giving free nano degrees in digital marketing, data analysis, and web development. So Egypt is working with Udacity, or you're just saying that Udacity is doing something specifically in Egypt, and that's what they're doing. Oh, you were telling me how to pronounce your name. So that's hilarious. Look at me. Oh, hi Thor. That's how you pronounce it. Oh, that's cool. I would call you Thor. Can I call you Thor? Is that okay? I don't know. That of course. So the reason I go to that is because it looked like you literally said hi Thor. Like, hey, I didn't realize this. Hi Thor, but hey, I'm so and so. Hey, Justin was my name, but you said Thor, so I don't know. Maybe I had the Ragnarok haircut. I do not. Okay, cool. Well, thanks for coming out, guys. Appreciate it. Pronounce your name Athasam? I don't know. There they go. Start pouring in. Pronouncing your name is a tongue twister. Priyanash Singh. Is that how I pronounce your name? Probably not, because it's Priyanash. Ansh? Yeah, it is a tongue twister. You're correct. Blake, I'm glad you enjoyed the Django bootcamp and you learned a lot. Definitely covered. I was like at way too much ambition on what to cover in that live bootcamp. So I'm glad you got something out of it. I really think that try Django, any of those try Django ones will also help you. So that might be worth checking out too. Everyone, are you guys wanting me to look silly? Is that why you're asking me to pronounce your name? Because I'm okay with looking silly, as you can probably tell. If you create a GitHub page and upload codes onto it, do you have full ownership of it? Yes, unless you give a license to not have full ownership of it, then yeah, you definitely will. So you also don't need to make it public. You can make private GitHub repos now. So that's pretty cool. So Priyanash, I've been saying your name wrong all the time. I switched the A in the end. I'm sorry. Hey, a 16-year-old student. Nice. A 4-year-old. Yeah, that sounds impossible. But, you're hilarious, I guess. Probably another 16-year-old. All right, guys. I'm going to jump off now. Thanks for coming out. I will see you next time.